Holy flirkin' schnit. What a freaking active news day, man. All kinds of things going on. Of course, I focus on the three that I like the best, and a couple of them are kind of current about how awesome I was on my Bill Cosby prediction. But I will show you how I did it, and I just did it using basic Vedic astrology principles. Okay, so a lot of people think you have to get overly complicated with astrology. In Vedic, you can certainly do that, but that's not the case of what I did. So anyway, let's start with yogic wisdom of the day. Yoga is 99% practice and 1% theory, okay? And I'm pretty sure I heard that in some other sort of context, but just like marriage, practice to practice to practice, right? Hey, guys and ladies, if you're married, put the 99% practice in it, and the theory is hopefully you won't get divorced. Steny Hoyer caught on tape telling progressive candidate to quit, and of course, this is kind of where I'm going into with astrological bias, and because that worked well last time, right? Because they were like, hey, let's not put Bernie in the election and then we'll get great results. No, didn't work that way. And of course, that's what I want to kind of get into. The next few election cycles are about anti-establishment, whatever, that's really what this is about. And this is the chart that I keep bringing up from March 25th of 2014, where we have this grand cardinal cross in here. This is the energy that we're dealing with, and you can actually kind of see this going on today, where things are starting to revolve around the new paradigm that we're going to be going into for the next couple of decades. And really, what is it? It's Trumpism. It's about individuality. It's about freedom of information. It's going to be about really like freedom of speech. We're seeing a lot of the stuff that came around in like the original French Revolution. The last time we had a square figure kind of close to proximity of this, it was really about who had information and how it was disseminated. So now we have the internet, and not, how do I put it, the parties in power don't have a lock on all of the ideological ideas anymore. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to form different opinions. And so really, I want to harken back to the I'm thinking of no, what was his name? FDR. FDR built the last lasting coalition for the Democratic Party. And the thing is, that's starting to break apart. We're starting to see black people leave the Democratic Party and head over toward the Republican Party. And another thing, too, is Democratic voters are just as angry with the Democratic Party as Republican voters were angry with the Democratic Party about 4 or 5 years ago when they didn't actually follow up on the promises. So this is anti-establishment, and a lot of other astrologers don't seem to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. And so in order to be an astrologer, you have to do your best to protect against bias, especially your own. I have my own too, but I do my best to try to swipe them aside. Prediction update: Cosby is guilty, and you see the Drudge Report line, guilty, 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 and it looks like the jury drugging scheme failed. Okay, the drugging scheme failed. So of course you saw if you saw my podcast yesterday, you'll understand the joke. And if you don't understand the joke, you don't have a sense of humor. Right, so taking a look at Bill Cosby's chart. How did I do it? I will tell you. Basically, what we do is we look at the sixth house. The sixth house is all about litigation and enemies, specifically litigation and how you handle it. If you have a good quality malefic like Saturn or Rahu in the sixth house, you tend to win. Even though you may have a lot of problems, you'll overcome those problems. Now, in Bill Cosby's case, he has the moon in the sign of Leo, and the moon isn't really that well placed. And so if we go and we take a look at his dasha cycle here, he's in his Saturn dasha, which really brings personal restrictions and limitations on yourself in general. But then we also look right now in 2017, he's in his moon dasha, which is in the sixth house. So it's just a matter of taking a look at the dashas and matching them up traditionally with where the Saturn and moon are placed in his chart. And of course, difficult placement, difficult verdict. So it was really that simple to come up with this. So it just shows you that the fundamentals go a very long way when you're working with astrology. Now, Reid is in trouble over something. Of course, now we get outraged over anything. I'm outraged over your outrage, right? No, you're not. Maybe you are. So this is Reid's birth chart. I I was actually kind of amazed at this because look at all these planets that she has in the sign of Virgo. Man, talk about paying attention to detail. I mean, this lady is pretty much all Virgo with Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto there, the south node of the moon, and Uranus. So, just to be fair, anybody that was born in the 60s probably has Uranus and Pluto pretty close together or conjunct. But since it's all in the same sign and it's making contact with a couple of these personal planets, I give it credence, okay? Now, don't have a birth time for her, so we can go on the moon. Now, her moon is in the sign of Cancer, and it's opposed Venus here, and that can be difficult for relationships. And if you know anybody that has Venus in Capricorn, they're not exactly what I would call a lovey-dovey type person. I mean, they can be a little bit cold, but that's because Capricorn is about calculation, goals, setting agendas. It's a very logical sign. So when you put Venus in there, Venus is going to take on the qualities of Capricorn. Doesn't mean that it's a bad kind of love. It's more of a business relationship type marriage, okay? Now, taking a look here, she actually has a retrograde Saturn here in the sign of Pisces. That's kind of a difficult placement, especially when you have Saturn retrograde. She's actually being affected by the retrograde Saturn right now. And if we take a look here, she's in her Venus dasha, give or take a little bit. And since this is in the 7th house, this usually reflects around relationships with other people. Now, taking a closer look here, she is in her, yeah, Venus, Rahu, give or take, and Rahu here is in this, let's see, this is actually in the 8th house, so that's a little bit difficult. This actually, I'm sorry, no, that's in the 9th house, but this also conjunct Saturn. So when you have Rahu and Saturn conjunct in the same place, here it's kind of like in the 9th house, it really wants to express itself through freedom of travel and moving around and things like that. So she wants to move around, she wants to have freedom, but Saturn being retrograde in that sign puts a damper on that, and that leads to a lot of like internal conflict, especially around emotions. So, hey, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you want to contact me, hit me up the links below and like and or smash that like button. And hopefully I enjoyed it. And also too, if you want me to cover a celebrities chart, contact me at nobsyoga@gmail.com. Have a great day.